nice. So nice to see you again. So, Ping, you are in Florida, right?
Yes, I'm in Florida.
Yeah, how's everything going there?
It's great. No complaints. A little bit raining today, but you know, Florida is usually.
Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
And so I know recently in US, the CDC have been announced a warn and some about the coronavirus spread in the community. What do you think about that? How do you think about that?
It's definitely, you know, it's every headlines of the news that you can see that virus, and you know, in the community here in the U.S., people start to really looking at it as well. With President Trump yesterday has a special presentation about this. I think we need to raise awareness, and people are start to really cautious about it. But I think if you look at what happened in SARS and also the seasonal flu in the U.S., those are very severe, you know, diseases as well. You know, the coronavirus is not something new, you know, but this time is a novel one. So the mutation and the change form of the coronavirus definitely, you know, is something that we need to be careful about. But I think from personal perspective, you know, it's not a, you know, large scale threat in the U.S. at this point, but we just have to watch that.
Yeah, I know it's kind of like the rally, global rally now. But I think because we have the company like yours really working on how to cure and treat or even prevent the virus and the flu, I think that's how keep our life safe. Really appreciate that. So so first, I want to welcome you and Sean join me, and also thanks to everyone from China and probably around the world joining us as well. So I'm very honored to have Ping here to talk about Dyadic, about how they fight, how they help to keep us safe, to develop that use their C1 platform to treat and cure and also prevent the virus. And also congratulations on your new partnership with Israel, the government. I think actually Dyadic is not is new to MSQ. We are older friends, and last May we already had met during our webinar, and we had very good positive feedback from China. And I think at this very critical time, it's really the global cooperation is become more important to how can we speed up the virus spread the speed, right? Can we work together to come up with the treatment and the solution for that? So that's why we really appreciate your time today to talk about the opportunity, and also we thanks to the audience join us, and I hope after today we can come up with some of the cooperation and between China and your company.
Thank you, Echo. Thank you for having me here.
And so first, Ping, do you mind just give the audience maybe high level of your background and help them to know you a little bit better?
Sure. Yeah, of course. So I'm Ping Rawson. I joined the Dyadic International about 4 years ago. I'm the CFO of the company. Before that, I've been working with multiple multinational Fortune 500 companies, mostly for accounting and finance role. And I started my career in the US with Deloitte and Touche in New York City. I actually was born and raised in Beijing in China. So maybe allow me to introduce myself a little bit in Chinese. 大家好，很高兴能够在这里。那我其实是一个土生土长的北京人，来到美国也大概快20年了，所以今天也很高兴在这里能够和大家探讨一下有关这个新冠的一些问题。也希望我们的这个技术呢 C1 呢能够帮助到中国的很多的病人，以及呢就是全球的一些在生化制药和这个技术方面的一些。 I think Echo, you are mute.
Oh, yes. Hi, thanks a lot. So Sean, how about you introduce yourself to the audience and also Ping?
Hi, because we have different audience in different time, I think. So actually, I'm the venture partner of MSQ. I joined MSQ for about half a year. And in the past 10 years, I was with China healthcare industry, doing some direct investment and also doing investment services. And before that, I was a clinical doctor actually. And in China, in the past 10 years, I did a lot of investment, and from biotech to pharmaceutical, and also medical devices and healthcare services. And now we as MSQ, we help many of the companies like in the overseas to help them to enter into the China market, and also help the Chinese companies to seek in some product and technology from the world. So we will build a bridge to connect to the world and China.
Okay, thank you. Actually, Sean joined me today and will also share his opinion about his insight about how can this product and this platform work with China, and also from their investor perspective as well. So thanks. So next, Ping, I will leave this presentation to you and to go deep about the Dyadic, the powerful platform.
Thank you, Echo. So let me pull out my slides for now. Can everyone see my slide deck?
See your face.
Not yet.
I think I need to share this thing maybe. How about this time?
No.
You should turn the camera.
You click the share.
Yeah, I think I did. One second. Panelist.
And where Ping tried to share the slides, actually, I wanted to just share another insight about Dyadic. Actually, 2015, Dyadic already successfully licensed out C1 platform to the industrial usage. And so they already approved this platform is very powerful. So I think that's good now.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
so,
we can see.
You can see now. So before I start, here is our safe harbor forward-looking statements to complying with the security law in the U.S. as we are a public company on NASDAQ. Issues on my computer. Okay. So Dyadic International, as I mentioned, we uplisted to NASDAQ in April 2019. We are still new to the exchange, but since that, the past years, we have achieved quite a bit on the ongoing R&D collaborations, which we had with many top names such as Sanofi-Aventis, and also Serum Institute of India, which is a big vaccine manufacturer in the world. We also have a EU project with the group of researchers, scientists, and companies. It's called the ZAPI program, which I will talk more details later on the slides. And also, as Echo mentioned earlier, the IIBR, Israeli Institute of Biologic Research. Just a couple of days ago, we announced a new collaboration with them to join the global fight against the coronavirus. Again, I will talk more in details in my later presentation. And Dyadic International, we have a very strong board members and management team with different backgrounds and the different assets and capabilities and experience we brought to the table. And from company perspective, we have a very strong balance sheet with $37.2 million cash and investment securities, which is not very common for a startup company, especially biotech company. We have no debt and no warrants, very clean balance sheets. From science perspective, the technology we have is the C1 technology, which is a fungal-based gene expression platform. It's not a new technology per se, but it has been industrial proven and used for decades to produce all type of industrial enzymes. We sold that part of business to DuPont for $75 million back in 2015. I just have some the Chinese in Chinese for those people want to take a look at it. And just some quick highlights of the company. Our ticker is DYAI, and our share is trading at $5.25 as of yesterday, and the market cap is about 140 to 150 million dollars. With outstanding shares, $27.2 million. 30% ownership is held by insiders. No debt, no warrants, as I mentioned, and there was $37.2 million cash and investment grade security. We are truly a global company with management and from a different background and diversified. And the company is founded by our CEO, Mark Emenfard. It's actually our 40 years anniversary. And he started the business from the Bahamas, a blue jean washing business, which is a very very interesting personal story he has as well. And the company transitions from the industrial side and also to the pharmaceutical world, as I mentioned back in 2015. And our Chief Scientific Officer, Roland Chalette, and Commercial Officer, Matthew Jones, also have various different backgrounds heavily in the industry and drug developing company experience they have been working with. So we are located in different part of the world. Mark and I are located in Jupiter, Florida, and Matthew is in UK, and Ronan is actually in Budapest. So we're a very diversified team and global presentation. Here's some information of our board members. Dr. Bose has 34 years in Pfizer, and Dr. Buckland has 29 years in Merck. Both of them has very extensive experience in bioprocessing and vaccine manufacture. Here's just a recap of our 2019 corporate achievements and milestone. As I mentioned earlier, we uplisted to NASDAQ in April, and we signed several collaborations, including Serum Institute of India, which according to the term, we are gonna express up to 12 antibodies of vaccines for them. For those people don't know Serum, they are actually very large institution. The Cois Institute is actually a company that produces a lot of vaccines for the planet, and they claim that about one of the 60 children on the planet, at least one of them used the vaccines manufactured by Serum. And they have multiple projects working with WHO and the Gates Foundation. And so we are very glad to work with them to tackle the possibility of using C1 to make recombinant vaccines and potentially other drugs. Also in 2019, we signed additional 4 proof of concept collaboration to use C1 technology to express various classes of proteins and vaccine antigens. This including the one that we announced in 2018 with Sanofi-Aventis, and also IBR. Also in 2019, we signed the 2 sub-licensing agreements with Luina Bio Novovat, which is Australia-based animal health company, and also Alphazyme, which is a startup company here in Jupiter, Florida, who is trying to use C1 to make industrial diagnostic enzymes. As I mentioned earlier, just a couple of days ago, actually, we announced the expanded collaboration with the Israeli Institute of Biologic Research. They have been using our C1 technology for a couple of years in the past, and successfully use C1 to express some FC fusion enzymes that initially was expressed and produced in Hexel, which, for those people know industry, Hexel is very, the advantage of Hexel is they can produce proteins really fast and a lot of times used in the discovery stage in the lab. So we are very glad to announce that C1 has the capable and the capability to express the same level and even better level of proteins comparable to Hexel. With the coronavirus, as you probably hear from the news, Israeli Prime Minister actually assigned this task to IBR to develop and create a vaccine and potentially candidates for drug candidates to help the outbreak of the coronavirus outbreak in China. So with that, I think we are officially joining this fight against the coronavirus outbreak. And we truly hope, our involvement, the participation can really help the industry, especially from manufacturing perspective, to help all the drug developing companies and vaccine companies to bring their product and the candidates eventually to the markets. The next slide talks about the ZAPI program, which is the EU-sponsored Zoonotic Anticipation and Preparedness Initiative. We actually participated in this project about 4 years ago with very good data results that we get from this project. We have announced that our C1 expression platform can actually produce 17 times higher level over the target level under the ZAPI project, and it's about 100 times higher than the E. coli system. We think, with the immunogenicity data that we have approved in cattle and in mice, this is definitely a very promising production platform. They will be selected for further analysis. We actually expanded this project with ZAPI last year, early this year, and we are in the process of continuing it. And hopefully the results that we bring to the table and it can help the coronavirus as well. This slides just give you an overview of the markets market opportunity that C1 can be applied to. As I mentioned, on the animal side, we work with ZAPI and the Novovat already, and we also have collaborations with another top 4 animal health companies. The animal health market is huge, and with potential disease transmit from animal to human, we think that this market is definitely has a great potential. So with C1, that's the broader application that we can apply to. It's not just coronavirus, but it also could be potential like some swine flu or other animal diseases. Also in ZAPI, also in Sanofi project I mentioned, and also the Serum Institute. And we also have some in-house project like AAV Avino associated viral vector that we are trying to use C1 to express for gene therapy, and that project just started. We are still waiting for the final results. So the big picture here is C1 is not just the one product or we developing. It's a platform and expression platform that we can apply to a very broad market. And every single market that listed on this slide can turn into $1 billion market. So what is C1? You know, as I talk about so many applications and good things about C1, let's take a closer look at the technology from science perspective. So C1 is Thermophila fungus, and originally we identified from Far East Russia. It has a very unique morphology, and allowing this unique feature allowed the C1 to have very high performance in the bioreactor because the short green looking, as you see from the picture on the slides, can benefit the productivity and other features in the bioreactor because long string on the top level of the picture is actually very easy to block the bioreactor, but the unique feature of morphology of C1 can, you know, entirely change this situation and make it very effective in the bioreactor. And over the past, 20 years, that Dyadic scientists has been, upgrade and enhance a lot of the different, and also develop a lot of tools, genetic tools in C1 and make it more beneficial to be used in the pharmaceutical world. It has received, C1 has received a GRAS certification from the FDA back in 2009. And as I mentioned, we sold the industrial part of the business to DuPont for $75 million in 2019. However, the experience and the achievement that we have from the industrial side helped us to build up a foundation to use the same technology pharmaceutical world. More slides about the advantage of C1 with its high productivity and also lower cost. And comparing to the industry the status quo, which is a CHO system, CHO system, Chinese hamster ovary cell, C1 has the advantage of having a short development cycle. As you can see from the charts, our process generally can be shortened to 12 to 14 days. Compared to CHO, which is generally 41 to 54 days. So as you can see, the construct and development cycle is a lot shorter, which is very relevant in terms of the coronavirus development because of this epidemic situation. Speed is the key. So with C1 technology, we can shorten the development cycle by almost a third of it. More comparison in terms of the commercial scales production of the SPV virus, which is the antigen we developed under the ZAPI program. So comparing that to the other platform that ZAPI has been using, including E. coli and the baculovirus. So C1's scale up and side, the advantage is pretty obvious. Which means, the higher productivity, which means not only the lower production cycle, but also means lower cost because the capacity, we are using is a lot smaller compared to E. coli and the baculovirus. So with a lower bioreactor and capacity, we can produce the same quantity of products. C1 can actually operate in a single-use bioreactor, which is the industry trend in terms of manufacturing process, which is also very beneficial for coronavirus because the large, the stainless steel manufacturing facility generally costs a lot of money upfront from an investment perspective. For single-use, the bioreactor is a lot cheaper to build and can be in multiple locations in a short period of time. And with also disposal bags that are used in the single-use bioreactor, make it more efficient and less contamination possibility. As I mentioned, we have applied the C1 to a very broad type of therapeutics, proteins, and also antigens. On the top side, you can see execution maps, which we have already achieved a 24.5 gram per liter. Compared to control system, what I know from industry is generally 7 to 8 gram per liter. Maybe could be higher in certain circumstances, but C1 it definitely showed a very high productivity in terms of monoclonal antibodies. And also FABs and the bispecific, we also successfully expressed in C1. On the bottom is the vaccines and antigens. HA flu virus is the seasonal flu virus. We also successfully expressed in C1 from the previous Sanofi Pasteur project. For antigen project in the middle, that's the one that I just mentioned in the ZAPI program. And we also successfully expressed the virus-like particles, VLP, in a very decent productivity level. So again, back to coronavirus, I think we have to focus on both the treatments and which is the therapeutic protein, the cure, and also the vaccine, which is the preventive aspect of it. So for C1, we can have help on both sides of the equation, both the vaccine and antibody. We are not just produce one vaccine or one drug. We are actually enabling those manufacturings and also the researchers to make sure whatever the drug or vaccine they developed can eventually brought to the market at a decent price and with the speed and quality and quantity that can be achieved. From binding perspective, this data basically shows the comparable results to CHO. I'm not going to go through too much details. If you are on the science side and interested in the data, our slides are available through our website, and you can also contact me after the presentation, and I can send it to you about those details. Glycoengineering, this is another important milestone that we have achieved later 2019 and 2020. We have announced that C1 has successfully achieved G0 level with 95% and G2 level of 76%. As you see from the charts, that for vaccines or drugs to make a glycol form is very challenging for yeast, which needs a lot of more glycoengineering work because the glycan structure of yeast, which is on the left side corner of the on the screen, is far from the glycan structure of a human. So more work needs to be done on the yeast side, but C1 has a very unique structure, which is in the middle. With our scientists' efforts, we were able to achieve G0 and G2, which opened the doors for C1 to be applied to a new category of glycol products in the future. how can we apply the C1 technology from the business development to other companies? We are very flexible to work with our business partners and research partners. For big pharma companies, we definitely focus on the validation and, for specific genes or they are trying to express from us. And we are also looking for certain upfront access fees, milestones, and royalties down the road. And for small biotech companies, we are flexible because we understand they are also like us and looking for fundings and equity and cash. So we are willing to work with them by taking a small piece of equity stake from them, and so we can grow together with those startup companies and to help them with their drug development process. And also the business they want to achieve. We think this is a win-win situation for both of us because we are growing with them. And the examples that we have is we have 7.5% equity stake in Alphazyme, also 20% in Novavax, which is the Australian animal company I mentioned earlier. We also have about 16.1% in BDI Group, which is our CRO contract research organization in Spain. Collaboration with Sanofi-Aventis. This is an ongoing $1 million collaboration that we had with them in 2019. We almost done with that. So the next step is really waiting for their analysis in terms of the product. So we gave it to them to do some internal analysis on their side. Serum Institute, I've mentioned it earlier. For biosimilar project, this is something that we have been trying in the past couple of years to use C1 to make a biosimilar version of Certolizumab, which is a drug that I think the patent is owned by UCB and the market cap is about $1.4 billion. We have finished the upstream, the cell line construction and the upstream development. We are working on the downstream and also some analysis to compare the product to the original brand name. So stay tuned. This is just showed a different capability that C1 can apply to the biosimilar, even biobetter markets. Opdiva is another biosimilar project that we are working on, which is a glyco drug, and with the G0 and G2 glycan structure that we have achieved, we are moving forward with it. So Sanofi data from the flu vaccine. So see, this is something that, I think the market kind of overlooked in terms of the manufacturing process of the seasonal flu. And back to the coronavirus topic that we have, actually seasonal flu cause more death, in certain cases and in certain areas. But people just not really, in China, I don't think there's a seasonal flu vaccine every winter. But in the US, the government is definitely asked the citizens to take flu shots every winter, especially for senior or children who are more easily contagious by the seasonal flu. So we have this flu data that's expressed by Sanofi-Aventis, Sanofi Pasteur in the past, which we are ready to apply and work with the new business partners to bring this to a further level. We also trying to use C1 to make AAV, adeno-associated viral vectors. Again, this project just started in 2019, and so stay tuned. metabolites, the primary and the secondary metabolites are another area that we are working. So again, C1 just have it's a platform. It's our advantage is on the manufacturing and production side of it, and with the broad application in different area and the different markets. I'm very glad to introduce this technology to the Chinese audience here on the webinar, and hopefully the information that I provide here can help you make some decisions and in terms of your the project that you are working on, and hopefully we can have some opportunities to work together, not only the coronavirus, but you know, the all the cure and the vaccine programs in general. And with that, I'm gonna turn it back to Echo and Sean and to see if there's any questions.
Thank you so much, Ping. And I think I received like in general question. They are very interesting in your Sanofi-Aventis collaboration, and also it seems it's a very successful one. Is already almost done, as you mentioned. Do you mind to go to the detail? Be more like a what's a kind of like a look back at what's the timeline and the milestone, and so maybe can help the audience visualize what it looks like the collaborator with Dyadic.
Sure. I just want to first clarify that there are actually two different projects with Sanofi, because sometimes people got confused. One is with Sanofi Pasteur, which is the vaccine side of their business. We worked with them a couple of years ago on the flu vaccine, the HA virus. And the other one is the Sanofi-Aventis, which is the biologic drug side. That project is still ongoing, and we finished, we are still waiting for their results to compare the proteins that we expressed by using C1 and waiting for their responses. So in terms of the flu vaccine, I think the results and data is very promising, as you can see from slide deck, and then immunogenicity results on the mice are positive as well, which means the mice react on that. I think from our perspective is really to find a partner who is in the space of vaccine, especially flu vaccine, to further develop and do more animal tests. And it's a challenge program because you are challenging the current way the industry is making flu vaccines. I don't know how much you know, like one way to make flu vaccine is it's use like an eggs. So that's the traditional way of it. And a lot of people who has allergy to eggs, they cannot take those type of flu vaccines. What we are trying to do is to challenge that traditional, way of doing it, and using a recombinant way, and use C1 to express it. There is still a lot of work needs to be done in this area, but I think this would be a very good opportunity to disrupt the current, the status quo, the industry standard.
Okay, thank you. So I wanted to maybe invite Sean to share some, do you have any questions, Sean, first? And also I would like to have Sean share some his insight or his perspective from the investor and also the expert in China. Sean, please.
Hello, my signal was bad. Yeah, thanks, Ping. The platform is powerful, very powerful, and you did a really good. And actually, we see you do a lot of collaborations in different countries like Australia, Israel, India, and Europe. And also you can do a lot of things like in monoclonal antibody and also vaccines. And in China, actually, there's a lot of companies nowadays, they're doing some generics and also biosimilars, the biogenerics, and also many companies, they doing CMO, CDMO. So there's a lot of need. So actually, I have a question: is as your platform is very powerful, a lot of advantages, but does there any disadvantages compared to Yeast or compared to the other systems?
The disadvantage, I think, is the time period that we have developed is still short comparing to, CHO has been used in the industry for probably more than 20 years, and so many people are working on the system. As you know, you can buy different strains of CHO anywhere from Thermo Fisher, any type of off-the-shelf. But C1, I think this advantage is not that many people use yet. Not even many people know we exist. So I think we need more like brain power to use the system to play around with and to figure out better ways of using it and applying it. As I mentioned, the broad application, we didn't know this many application 4 years ago. When I first joined the company, it's in certain ways, it's just a theory that we can use C1. But now 4 years after, with the data with Sanofi, with Zappy, and even IBR, we're more confident that our platform can turn into, I wouldn't say entire replacement of other platform, but at least very alternative platform that we can apply in the future. And the other thing is the disadvantage is, the location, especially in China, I think it's still very new. I mean, even in the globe, it's still a new technology. People are, as much as we say that we want innovations, we want new technologies, but people are still resistant of changing. Any type of change, especially with a lot of huge bioreactors built, for example, Samsung, they bought in Korea. We don't want to, just disregard those bioreactor and adopt something more effective. In certain ways, that is the mentality to change people and to be open-minded of new technology and willing to take some risk. I think that's the disadvantage, but it's also the opportunity that C1 has.
Yes, actually, I'm very exciting as the platform is really, very powerful. And I think if you want to enter into China market, there's a lot of partners. And if you can select some very good partners with their manufacturing ability or with their R&D abilities, you will have a lot of cash.
Yeah, I think, it's a cash from, it's not just about money. I think, we have a lot of cash on our balance sheet. As I mentioned, we are really clean and strong balance sheet. But I think it's just a contribution that we can have to not just the, coronavirus, again, to global healthcare markets, to bring the healthcare more affordable and cheaper and in a better quality to the entire population. I think that's the mission that Dyadic is carrying. Our management team is carrying. Our board member is carrying, and also I think it's the mission that can benefit the whole world. I think that's what excites us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Actually,
also that.
Sean, I just want to
Yeah,
ask you as well, because I think you just mentioned, and Pinjo mentioned, I think their platform is very powerful and is very diversified. So from your experience, what's your suggestion for Dyadic, the first focus in China if they wanted to get into China?
Yes, we have been, okay, go ahead, Sean.
Okay, before the question, I have another question is, if you want to cooperate with a China partner, will you choosing some new facility, or you can cooperate with some existing facility?
That's a good question. I think our go-to-market strategy in China is still kind of forming. Like I said, in the past 4 years, we are company as a whole, we are more focused on the science and enhance our platform, and also on the the uplisting. We haven't really have our hands free to really focus on the Chinese markets. Again, as a China-born person here, I'm really have this mission or a heart to really introduce this technology to China. You know, the first day, you know, I saw from news about coronavirus, actually I walked into Mark's office and our CEO's office. I said, you know, Mark, we need to do something with this. How can we apply C1? So we have been contacting some Chinese you know, companies, you know, in terms of this collaboration and also in general. I think, like I said, we're a small company. We're relatively, you know, small in terms of market cap and you know, the resources that we have. But we welcome all different kind of business partners, you know, both new and old, you know, and I think for both have advantage, you know, for older facilities, they already have their experience in this area. For new facilities, maybe it's easier to adopt microbial, like which is, you know, C1, the fungal-based system, compared to CHO. So I think we really have to discuss more into detail, like a case-by-case situation.
Oh yeah, thank you. And I think if you want to cooperate with some Chinese partners, and maybe you can talk to some of the big names like the listed companies, and they actually there's some very big companies.
Oh yeah, definitely. With bigger company, their resources and their
in
experience.
the vaccine, but also all similar. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with you, Sean.
And also I think when you cooperate with these companies, you should also choose their pipelines in which stages. If they are the pipelines in late stages, that would be much better. And if they have some very mature generic drugs, that would be also better. And you will have a big opportunity, yeah, because I think the need is really big in China.
Yeah, definitely. I think you know, definitely the early stage is the better, even though C1's advantage is more on the production and the manufacturing side. But you can't change horses at last minute in this case, you know, with the FDA approval and everything else. You want to think a little bit ahead of time, you know, when you actually do your drug discovery, you have to think about the strategy, how you want to go to market, how to produce at the end. You know, back to this coronavirus outbreak, recently what I heard from many industry leaders, their conversation and speech, what they concerned most is not actually the discovery of the candidate of the vaccines and drugs. What they concern the most, this is I'm talking about the scientists and researchers are talking, what they concern the most is the manufacturing and production and distribution on the supply chain side of it. So in other words, how to actually manufacturing their drug into and you know, in a very short period of time, a mass production I'm talking about, and also distribute it to, you know, the area. And even in the pandemic, you know, epidemic, even where or the pandemic situation, the extreme situation, you think about the discontinue of, you know, the flights and transportation, and the connections and the supply chain with like overseas can be disrupted, can be discontinued in certain cases. So relying on overseas manufacturing, even though could be cheaper in a normal time, it's not an option in the pandemic situation. So there's no industry solution at this point, but I think that there's opportunity where C1 can apply to is to shorten the manufacturing cycle. And instead of using large centralized bioreactor, we can use a local small scale bioreactor, produce the same quantity and quality of drugs and distribute to the local market. Personally, I think that's the solution that industry should look at it, and it will benefit, you know, we have to get ready. I think you know, in terms of the pandemic situation, we need time to prepare for it. And that's what we have been doing, you know, in the past 4 years with the DAPI program, is really get ourselves ready.
Yes, I think the most important thing in the current China circumstance is time and productivity in a cost-effective way, because many of the similar companies they do a lot of similar things.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think the best part of our C1 is we can work with multiple vaccines at the same time. You know, you heard from news and even from our conversation, they are all scientists over the globe that use different approach to do it. You know, as many shots on goal, I think eventually it will work one way or the other. But C1 can be applied to all different type of vaccines, no matter what type of you know, drugs or vaccines, as long as it's a protein based, we can use our platform to express.
Yeah, you know, there's some Chinese listed companies that capital market is even more than $10 billion US.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very big. So we have a lot of connections in the industry. We can talk it later in the future.
Sure, of course. Yeah, this is definitely a global effort. You know, as you see from the coronavirus outbreak, the reaction to the outbreak is very fast. You know, this time the Chinese scientists did a remarkable job in terms of getting the sequencing out, the genetic sequence. They get out, you know, a lot shorter time period compared to the SARS period. Which is a big help for the researchers to start the work to develop vaccines. But on the manufacturing side, I think it's still delayed. There's not that many new technologies in that area. Again, I think Dyadic and C1 could be that a missing piece of the puzzle. So we can really help to bring the markets and you know, work with different again, big or small companies, they all in this arena that we can help with.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw a question from the one audit from TE. Yeah, TE, the question is, how is Dyadic coming along with animal health? Can we expect any updates soon? Question from TE.
That's a great question. Animal health is another big market that we are tackling. As I mentioned in my presentation, we already work with 2 out of the top 4 animal health company. This is a market that has lower regulatory hurdle and it's faster, you know, in terms of development cycle, because you don't need to go through the clinical trial, of course, you know. So with you know, the swine flu, you know, everybody heard of that, you know. Also some other like the pets rates is higher, you know, dogs and, you know, cats. A lot of vaccines and biologics can be applied into this market. We are diligently working on that market as well. As we are talking, you know, we are talking with other animal health companies, you know, to see if there's any collaborations that we can work together. Again, swine flu, you know, in China, there's so many, you know, farmer animals that needs to be treated because of just the population. It can impact human eventually. So if we have our farm animal treated, you know, there's less likelihood those diseases can be passed to human. And with our results from the ZAPI program I mentioned earlier, we do show C1 has a better productivity and also immunogenicity than the baculovirus and E. coli. So we are also looking, yeah, so if any Chinese animal health company are interested in this world, we are more than happy to talk to them as well.
Okay.
Yeah, here I have a, actually, I think you have the hybrid model and work with the top, like a bigger farmer, and so you can have the cash flow, and also you have very long-term plan to by working with the small biotech company. So my question is, what's your criteria of the business partners, especially for with the small biotech companies?
Yeah, we are very flexible in terms of the business terms. I guess I mentioned in my presentation with big farmers that we obviously looking for upfront cash, milestones, and royalties. For small startup company, we know they are lacking cash, looking for capitals, just like we are. So we are willing to work together with them, take a different approach. Instead of cash, we'll get we can have like a equity stake with them. Just grow together with more startup company. But again, it's really depends on what type of work and product they are developing. Is a new product, a new ring of new category, or is existing product they want to do biosimilar, better. So it's very broad term that we have to look at it together.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for that sharing. So we have a question from Paul, and with regard to your successful DAPI program, how does that turn into a contract, and with whom would that contract be?
So DAPI is EU government sponsored. It's a consortium, actually includes more than about 15 to 20 parties, including big companies like you heard of Boehringer, Seneca, and also universities and researchers in Europe. So the project itself is not, it's a consortium, so it's not just one company. The plan is really to fast track their product, eventually commercialize it. So C1 and Dyadic only plays a piece of it. So we are the production host that selected by them to move forward with the project. So the royalty and all others are owned by the consortium. The commercial terms will be also owned by the EU consortium.
That's great. I think because of the time, we have to end today's webinar for now, but we still have a few questions, so we definitely will continue the conversation offline. And so for the audience, if you have any questions, you can still send away, and so we can connect with the team and all the management team from Dyadic. So thank you so much for Ping and Sean joining me today.